Massive threat, the plant overtaking portions of the Southwest that could become fuel for fire.
The fire danger from it drying out is frightening.
All about our brand new podcast. Episode 1 drops today.
So who do you think would enjoy listening to this?
I think everybody.
And unbearable.
New York putting pressure on a progressive prosecutor to crack down on violent crime.
For the district attorney, justice isn't blind. It's about looking for opportunities to advance a political agenda.
Other desk, I'm Angela Brown. Parts of Utah are on flood watch today. That historic snowpack combined with rain means water will be flowing down the mountains and into the valleys. Kristen McPeak is in Salt Lake City this morning to show us that threat.
I'm Kristen McPeak, just east of Salt Lake City in Immigration Canyon. Take a look at Immigration Creek here behind me. It's rushing quickly. It's actually under a flood advisory, which is why you're seeing a lot of sandbags around the creek. Now, they're a common sight along the creek and in the neighborhoods this creek runs through. Salt Lake City leaders are keeping an eye on what they call our pinch points, which are areas that can easily get overwhelmed with debris. Crews can't predict what comes down with the water, so they're asking everyone to keep those storm drains clear. We've seen damage to roads and flooding neighborhoods because debris will clog up the waterways, so that's something they're really keeping an eye on here. Just east of Salt Lake City, I'm Kristen McPeak.
Many people in Utah are wondering if all that water will go to waste or will it help the state's drought and possibly replenish the rapidly disappearing Great Salt Lake. Daniel Woodruff has the answers.
Flooding came fast last week, showing just how much water we have in our mountains. Water we desperately need. Is floodwater wasted?
No, especially in the Great Salt Lake watershed, this floodwater is not wasted.
Joel Ferry, head of the Department of Natural Resources, says even floodwater gets to where it needs to go.
It'll make it down through the rivers and actually into Great Salt Lake.
The lake hit historically low levels last year, but so far this year it's risen more than 3 feet, with several more expected. That's in addition to recharging our aquifers, which hold groundwater, and our reservoirs.
At the end of this year, we're going to see most of the reservoirs in the state of Utah at full, at 100% capacity, or 90% plus.
Juliana hopes for no more flooding by her, but if there is, she believes that water will eventually end up where it needs to.
It's definitely coming down and going right back into that river, so it is diverting back to where it should be.
Via your backyard.
Via my backyard, that's right.
Snow is also starting to melt in California, and that's good news for Shasta Lake, the state's largest man-made lake. And as Preston Dinion reports from north of Redding, even with more rain on the way, the lake could soon hit capacity.
Shasta Lake has risen 128 feet since January 1st and now sits just 12 feet away from being full. The rapid fill-up has been fantastic for businesses on the lake, including Shasta Marina at Packers Bay. Owner John Harkrader and his team are hard at work preparing for the busy season, and he offered his advice for prospective visitors.
Well, make plans ahead of time because the phones are ringing, and it's not only my resort, it's other resorts, and people are excited because being locked up for a couple years, water levels down low, so it's going to be a great year on the lake.
According to the Bureau of Reclamation, it is likely that the lake would reach capacity in the days following this rain, but they will hold the level at 1,065 feet, 2 feet below capacity, in case of further wet weather.
The West isn't the only region dealing with spring snow melt. In Minnesota, that means raging waters. This is the St. Louis River and Jay Cook State Park near Duluth. The raging waters are really quite a sight. You can see it here, but they're also a little bit choppy and dangerous. The water is coming dangerously close to the swinging bridge, forcing park officials to close it. The river has reportedly risen 10 feet over the past week, bringing out curious people to see for themselves.
We just came out to check the river. We saw some pictures on Facebook and we wanted to see it in person. No, I've never seen it like this before. It's very high and fast.
The National Weather Service issued a flood warning for several portions of northern Minnesota and also for Wisconsin. Well, portions of Wisconsin are also digging out for more than 10 inches of snow. It's quite a change from last week when folks were savoring record high temperatures. Kim Ledholm looks at how folks are dealing with weather whiplash.
Nearly 20 inches of snow. in the middle of April.
We can't forget that last week was spring sports and it was 90 degrees and people went to baseball on Friday night wearing shorts and got sunburn. And now we have almost 18 inches of snow outside.
School District of Black River Falls Superintendent Shelley Severson calling a snow day in April for what might be her first time.
I do not remember an April snow day. I know there have been times where it is threatened, where we've had some snow showers. I do not remember this much snow this late in the year.
Road conditions in Jackson County have been slick, with the Wisconsin State Patrol saying in the last 24 hours they've assisted close to 40 runoffs.
We actually came home from Wisconsin Dells this morning, so it seemed like the line was about Warren's, and that's kind of where the heavy snow went, but it was a mess driving that way too.
When there's any snowy weather, Superintendent Severson says the most important thing is checking road conditions for the buses.
There's a lot of trees down right now, and again, a lot of people without power, so we're going to have to see how Mother Nature goes and what our crews are able to handle.
All the while embracing the weather, because at the end of the day, there's no place like home.
In other parts of the country, it's not snow that is causing an issue, but fire. For residents in Rhode Island, fire has been the major concern. Last week, wildfires grew so large, officials had to bring in special equipment to help fight those flames. Joanna Burris explains.
More than just a drop in the bucket. As a fire scorched hundreds of acres in Exeter Friday, the National Guard was called in to use a new tool to help fight the flames.
Due to wind conditions, weather conditions, the fire was moving at such a rate and had risen to the what they call crowning. The fire reached the treetops and was burning across treetops, so fire hoses couldn't reach it.
The Guard used the 600-gallon Bambi buckets for the first time last Wednesday in West Greenwich, and 2 days later in Exeter. North Kingstown Fire Chief Scott Kettle says the water drops are a great tool, but it's a process. Firefighters have to make a request to the DEM and the State Emergency Management Agency, which files paperwork with the governor to authorize use of the National Guard.
Over the course of a little over an hour, they got the crew together for the helicopters, and they put them in the air. And then they coordinated, once they were overhead, they coordinated with Rhode Island DEM Forest Environment to coordinate the airdrops of water.
Governor McKee toured the scorched earth in Exeter Monday. The National Guard was training with the helicopters and buckets in the area only a few weeks ago.
40,000 gallons of water was dropped by the National Guard onto this fire to help fight the fire.
Getting gas in South Florida is still a problem for some drivers days after historic rainfall swept through Miami-Dade and Broward counties. Last Wednesday's rain flooded many gas pumps. Broward County's mayor says gas station owners are working to get the pumps going. Meanwhile, AAA says companies trucked in gas from places like Orlando and Tampa to offset the shortages. Officials urge the public, though, not to panic. They say gas supplies in the region should return to normal very soon. And now, here is some wild video. Just look at this. A North Carolina man, you can see him there, is sitting. It's still a little numb this morning after coming face to face with a bear. Now, David Oppenheimer was relaxing. You can see him there on his chair outside of his home in Asheville, North Carolina, when his motion detector went off and he turned around. You can see the look on his face. And staring straight at him, wow, look at that, was a bear looking right in his face. Both obviously were startled, but the bear ran off. Oppenheimer said he noticed the same bear looking through his trash cans in the past, but this apparently is the first time the two actually came face to face. And we would love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk or scan the QR code on the bottom left of your screen. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll take you to Arizona, where a spring bloom is causing major concern. And what exactly is an EF3 tornado? We'll break down how tornado strength is measured.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have an upper low that's parked itself over the Northeast over the next couple of days, and it's not until mid to late week that we'll start to see some improvement. High pressure builds in. I think we'll see brighter skies. Certainly by Thursday and Friday looks pretty good as well. In the near term, any morning sun today will give way to some afternoon clouds. Notice some pop-up showers. We'll see northern New England and back into New York. We'll start with bright skies on Wednesday. Notice more pop-up clouds. There is a slight chance for an afternoon shower.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. After a cool start with 40s and low 50s, by about lunchtime, we're well into the 50s and 60s, and it looks like most folks do get into the 60s for our Tuesday afternoon, at or below average for most, and it's going to be breezy. Overall, pretty nice as our latest weather maker spins off to the north, possibly with a couple of patchy clouds here and there. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs across the region. We're looking at 80 degrees for a high in Nashville, Birmingham 81 degrees, Raleigh 76, Jacksonville right around 79 degrees, a warm one at 84 in Tampa, 78 West Palm. Cold front pushed through, allowing for us to get plenty of sunshine across the southeast. High pressure will continue to control what's happening around the region, so you can see clear skies through much of the day on Tuesday. Even Wednesday, it looks like a pretty decent day with sunshine.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
We are now fully into spring, and in California, that means all that snow that fell at higher elevations this winter is now melting, causing major flooding. But in Northern California, flooding isn't the only concern. Austin Castro explains.
Over the last few months, the North Coast saw record-breaking snowfall from the higher elevations of Tompkins Hill to even the lower elevations of Clam Beach. With spring now here, much of that snow is now melting into our rivers and streams.
This was an incredibly active winter, especially after a few years of drought.
Hydrologist Kathleen Zontos with the National Weather Service in Eureka tells me this year's snowmelt is expected to be greater.
And now that we're seeing a higher than normal snowpack for not only us but across the state, there's going to be more runoff. Most of the flood concerns are expected to be around the Sierras. And so the good news for us in Northwest California is we're not really expecting many flood impacts from the snow melt.
However, the North Coast isn't quite out of the woods when it comes to areas of concern. Megan McFarland with PG&E says some of the areas they're concerned about include the Eel River, Klamath River, and Mad River.
We want people who are in the outdoors fishing, swimming, and other water-related recreational activities to just practice extra caution.
The increased snowmelt not only increases water flow, but also causes the water to be extremely cold.
Cold water entering the ear canal can actually cause vertigo and disorientation. This can be confusing to swimmers. It can potentially cause them to go deeper into the water.
McFarland emphasizes it's important to know your limits, understand the risks, and look out for obstacles.
Flower blooms have been making headlines, from poppies in California to tulips in Rhode Island. But in Arizona, there's another super bloom, and it's causing major concern. Alexis Dominguez has more.
It may look pretty, but it's not something you want on your land.
So we moved here in 2016. So first year we saw a little bit of it, very little bit. All of this was just desert, just regular desert plants. But every year it's gotten progressively worse.
In Cave Creek, stink net now blankets properties and mountainsides.
We've had to, work at getting rid of it several times this year. Every time it's been a lot of work.
Just a couple weeks ago, we had this entire section behind me completely cleared.
It's to the point where it's become a nuisance.
It costs us a few $1,000s every year to clean this off now.
As you can see, when you look across the desert, it kind of fills in all those areas where other plants aren't. So it doesn't really overtake as many of the other plants, but it'll just grow throughout every area that's available.
Sean Gilliland is a firefighter, and he knows as summer approaches, the plants will dry out.
Obviously, if you look out across the desert, it adds a lot of color, but they didn't realize how dangerous and how quickly it's going to dry out and become fire fuel.
A thought homeowners here are terrified of.
The fire danger from it drying out frightens us a lot.
Yeah, it petrifies us. Frankly, we keep our truck hooked up to the horse trailer in big part because of that. We're worried something may catch fire here real quickly. We're going to have to grab the horses and go. Gilliland
says clearing out the plants is something that needs to be done.
Right now is a great time to get rid of it, especially when it's not dried out. Once it's dry, you start spreading the spores around. But when it's still green, in its green state, it's a lot less likely to actually spread across your property and start throwing those spores into the air where they're going to carry.
We're in the middle of tornado season, and already it has been historic. So for today's weather lesson, we are looking at the Fujita scale. Level 0 and 1 are less severe, but as the numbers go up, the risk can become deadly. Here is meteorologist Violet Skybor to explain.
Going up even higher, stronger tornadoes, EF2, around 111 to 135 miles per hour, can create considerable damage. Cars can be flipped over. Most poles are knocked over, lots of power outages, large trees uprooted, and roofs can even be ripped away from this. And we're only halfway up the scale, going up to EF3, 136 to 165 miles per hour. This is when we start to see severe damage. Most standing objects are toppled over. Vehicles can be completely displaced, thrown down the street. Bark is stripped from trees. Entire floors of houses can be completely destroyed. Now as we go up to EF4, 166 to 200 miles per hour, extreme damage. Much of the landscape is stripped, including grass even. Most homes are leveled, cars thrown into the air, and even can stay suspended for a period of time. Then the highest ranking EF5 is 201 miles per hour and up. These are very rare, but still happen. And we can see incredible damage. Grass completely ripped from the ground, homes completely swept away, and some concrete is even ripped from the ground. It's crazy how tornadoes can do this much damage. Hopefully this taught you more about the scale and all of its ranks.
Well, here's something to put on your radar, a new podcast featuring our very own National Weather Desk meteorologist, Emily Gracie. It's another chance to take in great weather content, in addition to what you see every single day right here. Now, I sat down with Emily to talk about how she will take listeners off the radar. That's the name of the podcast, and some exciting things you can expect each week.
Things that you're not going to hear every day. We're not talking about cold fronts and low pressure systems. We're talking about different innovative ways of fighting climate change, or really fun weather facts that you may not know about.
So who do you think would enjoy listening to this?
I think everybody. It's appropriate for everybody. It is good for kids, even scientific backgrounds. We'll get a lot out of it because it's kind of new information in some regards, but you don't have to have any sort of scientific background to listen. I think anybody will enjoy listening to it.
What's the first topic that you're going to cover for us?
Yeah, so the very first episode is really fun because it's about burps and farts coming out of cows and what that's doing to our atmosphere, because there's a lot of methane coming out of livestock. So there's actually a company that is feeding these little pills that contain red seaweed additive to cows, and they've found that this actually reduces the methane coming out of cows significantly, which methane is a huge player when it comes to climate change. So I talked to an expert about methane and the science behind that, and it's really fascinating.
And what other topics are you going to cover for us?
I'm talking to a variety of people. I have an episode coming out that's all about forensic meteorology, which is kind of like CSI, but with weather. It's solving crimes, and some of them violent crimes, using weather information. I have an episode that's all about the weather on Mars, climate equity, which is really interesting. A woman who works with making climate change equitable, because right now climate change is not impacting all different types of people in the same way. It's a huge variety of topics, I should say. And I want to do a lot more in the future too, a lot of fun stuff, including some stuff for kids.
And be sure to check out Off the Radar, a brand new podcast from the National Weather Desk. The first episode is available today. You'll find it wherever you get your podcast. Stargazers are in for a treat this week and also next. Solaris meteor shower returns Saturday and continues until the Saturday after next, which is April 29th. Now, the shower happens each April when Earth runs into debris from the comet. In the U.S., NASA says the best time to look up is around 9 at night. The shower will peak April 21st and 22nd. The meteors probably won't have dusty tails, but stargazers may see a few flashes called fireballs. We'll be right back.
Well, a very good Tuesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. Taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest for the day today. If we get any precipitation, any rain, pretty light across the most of the Midwest for the day today. A couple of snow showers, though, over the Great Lakes. Heading into the day tomorrow, we got some thunderstorms starting to brew up across the central part of the plains, and even some snow in far northern Dakota, and that'll shift into northern Minnesota heading into Thursday, with more of those scattered thunderstorms heading towards the Ohio Valley by the end of the week.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Things are a little bit warm this morning out across Texas and back over to Louisiana, where we're seeing temperatures into the 50s. So a little bit of a difference. We'll be keeping an eye on upper level disturbances that could bring showers down to the south, dry line that could bring some storms a little bit further back out to the west. Otherwise, during the afternoon, we'll be warming up into the 70s and into the 80s. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi, everybody, and a good Tuesday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Still struggling to warm up in parts of the west, namely the Pacific Northwest, running a good 10 to 15 degrees below average for Seattle. Spokane, Portland, and Boise all stuck back in the mid to the upper 40s again today versus a sunny 87 out of Phoenix, Arizona. This is why another big weather maker marching on through, trough of low pressure, spinning showers into the Emerald City and the Rose City, for that matter, too, throughout the day. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
This band of colors resembles a rainbow, but it's actually a circumhorizontal arc, also known as a fire rainbow. Ingredients needed: sunlight, cirrus clouds, and the ice crystals within them. Alignment is key, too. The sun needs to be at the right height in the sky, and the clouds positioned just right to refract the light.
Listen to Off the Radar, new episodes every Tuesday. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
In many parts of the U.S., snow can fall well into the spring, but it doesn't always last as long as snow in the winter months. And there's a reason for this. Therein Zahn explains.
Many times when we're talking about the snow level, we're talking about the elevation in the mountains where the snow is falling. But did you know the snow level can change dramatically even in the lowlands? You see some of these cells here on the radar as they move through. Some of those heavier showers can actually drag that cold air down to the surface temporarily. So you have some heavy rain falling, and then it suddenly starts to snow before changing back to rain. That instability in the atmosphere can make for some very interesting weather.
And we'd love to connect with you. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you for joining us. If you want to hear even more great weather content, head over to Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts and check out ours. It's called Off the Radar, and it's there. New episodes right now. Drops every Tuesday. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Tuesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.